Welcome to this week's In the Money Players podcast, going over racing for October 30th. We have four very amazing special guests. Klaus Ebner talks JRA racing. PTF and me go over a pick six from a state bred card at Belmont. Me and Drew Coatney talk late pick four on Saturday at Woodbine. And me and Drew Domabyl talk about the early pick five at Keeneland. This is the In the Money Players podcast.
This show is brought to you by our friends at the New York Thoroughbred Breeders. So happy to be working with them to promote their excellent New York Bred Showcase Day. You can become a member today by visiting nytbreeders.org/membership. If you do so, you're going to get membership benefits, including New York Breeder Magazine, free entrance to NYRA tracks and Finger Lakes. You'll also get yearly subscription discounts to the Blood Horse and member discounts at NTRA Advantage. Also want to let folks know the tickets are now available to purchase at nytbreeders.org/events for the NYTB holiday party in Saratoga at Salt and Char, Saturday, December 4th in downtown Saratoga Springs. This event celebrates the year in New York racing and is the preemptive party to kick off the 2022 breeding season. I have something else that night, but I'm going to try to get there. Sounds like too much fun to miss. Anyway, for more information, go to the website nytbreeders.org.
And now let's welcome in my special guest for this In the Money Players podcast. I think it's the first time I've ever seen him not wearing a hat. It is PTF. How are you doing, PTF?
I'm good. The hat is trapped in the car, you see. Okay. So this is this trip that I do. I have obviously parent 8-year-old daughter, usually Breeders' Cup week. Well, I say usually for several years in a row, Breeders' Cup and Halloween, same weekend. Very huge bummer as a dad of a 5 to 7-year-old or whatever it is, that I was never able to be around for Halloween. In our family, we have a place in West Virginia, this resort. The noted contest player Dan Slattery knows about this if he's listening. Capon Springs, West Virginia, this awesome family resort. They come down here. Family comes down here for 1 week in August. I'm going to let the listeners and viewers out there guess how many times I make it for that week in August to come to Capon Springs. But they also come for Halloween, and Perrin loves it here. There's lots of fun activities, pumpkin carving, hay rides, etc. So we made the drive down last night. It was the most traffic I've ever seen, Spencer. We sat, not just getting out of the city was the worst it's ever been. There was like an overturned tractor trailer. We sat not moving on a highway in Virginia at midnight for an hour. Not good, my friend. But anyway, so then we woke up to pouring rain, and my hat is trapped in the car across the place. It's like sheets of rain. I couldn't deal. So that's why you have hatless me. But I'll tell you what, we've had some trials and tribulations to start this trip, but we're happy to be here. It's a great place. The monster pods are done, and I'm ready to talk about NYRA with you. Super excited that our friends at the New York Breeders, by the way, have came along for the ride to help us out with this podcast. New York Showcase Day. Obviously, this year it's going to be, we've got this rain. They've moved a couple of the big turf races to next weekend, which, we'll be covering them then as well. But it's great to have them in the fold. And, by the time people see this, you'll have read their ad with their messaging about their holiday party. There's a lot of cool stuff that they're doing to support the industry in New York, and folks should pay attention. And certainly if you have any interest in ownership at all, I highly recommend you join. You'll have given that link earlier in the show, so I don't need to repeat it now. But anyway, thanks to Naj and the rest of the crew at New York Thoroughbred Breeders. I will be sneaking off to on Saturday here at Capon Springs to one of the few areas with Wi-Fi that I can watch some of those big races, because it's always a day that I enjoy handicapping and betting on.
I mean, for me, it's always exciting to have the state bred races as well, because I think sometimes, the open races, sometimes people just do have an advantage when they're just betting state bred races. I think for me, state bred, maiden claiming sometimes easy as 1, 2, 3, and there's, turn time with their little figure, and that finds the winner most times out of 10. But let us start off with race number 5 from Belmont Park. We're going to do just a pick 6 in general. It is the Hudson Handicap, going 6.5 on the dirt. What do you like in this one, PTF?
I put the number 1 Judge and Jury on top in this race. I thought had the tactical speed to get a good trip, and the one poor run you can easily excuse, thrown to the wolves in the Jerkins. I like this one's chance to bounce back here. I'm not going to be leaving out Foolish Ghost, the 3. Did not run well last time, but I excuse that when a horse runs a subpar race, has good form before, and the poor race precedes a layoff, I'm going to be tempted to look at the previous form and see, especially if you're dealing with a situation where you think the horse can act off the layoff. I'm going to want to be forgiving of that last run. And then our last buck, the 7, I thought should get a good journey, working forwardly for the return to the races. I had it 1, 3, and 7, Spencer, to kick off this pick 6 on New York Bred Showcase Day.
I'm staying a little bit more to the outside. I will talk about our last buck, though, first. Third off the layoff. We always know it's a very good form cycle, IT and handicapping angle. A win and a third in the last 2 state bred stake races. That shows good form just for the class level. Ran in that optional 100,000 N3X against Open Company and ran a brand new buyer top of 96. I think this one is coming in great form. Michelle Nevin is off to a great, fantastic start at this meet. The other one, I'm going back to New York traffic. I just think in these kind of races, when we have the New York Breds and they're so classy with the outside races, obviously it's in the Derby and the Preakness, they just come over here. And we know, listen, Safi has not been as hot as he has been through Saratoga and just through everything else. Gets IRED on this horse, is going to take money. I don't want to let this one beat me early on in this pick 6 sequence. Let's move on to race number 6. It is the Iroquois 150,000 stake, 6.5 as well on the dirt. What is going to be on our tickets in this race, Pete?
I put number 2, the important one, on top, going for the 3-peat, shown ability to pass horses, and that could come really into play if the second horse I want to talk about decides to go on a mission for the lead. That runner is number 1, Miss Jimmy. She's the speed from the rail. I like the fact she's proven on off-going. Seems very likely we're going to be having some off-going here on this Saturday, given what the weather's been doing in and around New York. Miss Jimmy's a winning type. I mean, what a cool lifetime mark. 10 for 22, 9 seconds. She's going to be on all my tickets. And then the other one who I'd use more as a B is number 6, Espresso Shot, who I just had as a flow move up coming out of the last race and thought could be running on late to get up into the number. And if they go too fast up front, maybe could win. So I had a 2-1 on the A line with the 6 as a B. Nothing terribly creative, but that's how I saw it.
I'm going to try and be creative here. I'm going to try and avoid the 1 and the 2 and try and get a little spicy here. The number 4, let me take this call. So glad to see Kendrick back on mounts. And the last race, Finger Lakes in the slop. This one obviously has 4 wins in the slop, so I'm sure it wasn't the sloppy going. Maybe it was just Finger Lakes in general. The races before that all fit, I think, really well. This one has been off slow paces, but Kendrick, as we all know, I think it doesn't matter fast or slow, just knows how to get these ones into the race. I'm also with you on Espresso Shot, coming out of just the class level again in these type of state bred days. You want to see those class levels where they have been running in these stake races, and this one has a win back in March of this year. And in the last 2 races, I think this one's slowly coming into form, and doesn't help that you get Jose Ortiz on as well. So for me, it will be number 4 and the 6. So on to race number 7 is the 250,000, the Maid of the Mist, 1 mile on the dirt. Pete, what are we liking here?
My top pick was Venti Valentine. Now, I handicapped this early amidst doing all the Monster Pod stuff. Do you have the morning lines in front of you? I can look them up very quickly.
3-1 for Venti Valentine.
I was hoping for a little bit more of a price, if I'm being honest, but I still am going to go with Venti Valentine. Impressive on debut. The form of that race is working out well. 2 winners to come out of it. Should get a nice pace to run into as well. I don't know why I was hoping for more like 4 or 9-2, but we'll see what happens when the actual betting starts. Though, of course, David Aragona makes the morning line in New York, and he usually does such a good job. That's probably right. I'm not going to say there's a ton of juice in that price. This was one I was maybe going to be looking to press if a better price, but still a runner that I like. Velvet Sister, the 7, another one that I like. Multiple stakes placed. Attended a fast pace last time, so I was thinking maybe that run was a little bit better than it looked. And then the 6, Sue Ellen Mishke, for all those Seinfeld fans out there. Found the grade 1, spin away too tough, but that debut showed promise, and Sue Ellen Mishke looks like she might be the best speed. 1, 7, and 6, pretty equal for me in this spot.
I'm going to go with only one Jorge Abreu runner, that being the number 6, Sue Ellen Mishke. Sometimes they just get in the too deep end of the pool. That was the spin away. The maiden win was fine to me with a 69. I think that they're going to find out whether this one is the goods or not. They don't drop them into an allowance or anything, so I think they still have bigger aspirations for this one. But I like the fact that Jorge doesn't drop this one into an allowance. Velvet Sister for me as well, Asmussen. The fact that this one has thrown 2 buyer figures in the mid to high 60s. Maybe this one is back into form a little bit. had the race in the mud with Joel. I think Jose might just end up being the better fit in here. Obviously, Joel rides very, very well. But for me, Velvet Sister, I think this one will be a little bit closer to the pace than we would think. My wacky horse, Jose Lezcano, number 9, Dufresne. Been a turf runner, but the sire stats I have off here, they actually think that this one it's 17% dirt sprinting and is a multiple grade stakes winner at 2 and won $1 million. I'm just very, very interested to see this one coming back on the dirt. Let's move on to race number 8, the Empire Distaff Handicap, 101/16 miles on the dirt. What's going to make your tickets in this one, Pete?
I put the 4 Make Mischief on top, and it does look like the morning line is a slightly more pleasing 9-2 here. I thought that run last time was huge, breaking through the gate, then getting out slow, still firing, every right to go better with a less eventful start. Number 1, Ice Princess, for one thing. Perrin would probably never forgive me for a runner she could so easily associate with Elsa from Frozen. But besides that, she's done her best work on off-going, likely going to get that here. This is an honest sort who just makes sense to me. And then another horse that's been putting races together, Bank Sting, 7, 4-race win streak, and I thought would get a great trip. This is a push-button type horse Mike Maloney talks about in the great book, Betting with an Edge, that I had the pleasure of working with him on. Can lead, can sit handy, could probably close if they ever wanted to go crazy and go hammer and tongs up front. I just like runners with consistency. I think it can be consistency and the ability to be versatile. These are two things that can be underrated sometimes. 4, 1, and 7 for me in the Empire Distaff.
I kind of felt like this one was just a wide open affair. I'm going to start off real quick with Sharp Star off the layoff for Horatio De Paz. Very, very good, strong 50% with a positive ROI. Just the fact that Barbara Fritchie wasn't the best race in the world, but the La Verdad 4-back, that fits right in here as a state bred stake race in the mud as well. Like we said, we might be getting that. I think this one may actually like the mud compared to fast dirt. So I'm going to be using more of a surface play with that one at a large price of 12-1. Make Mischief. I say exactly what you said. When you break through the gate, they are usually in the back of the field. This one lost by a neck. This one at 9-2 is a playback, probably even at 5-2. And we're getting double that. So one I can't leave off. Mrs. Orb, Dylan Davis. I said, I think last week with Matt Vagvolger 2 weeks ago on Redboard Rewind, he is, if there is a most improved jockey, it's him for NYRA this year. Just riding lights out very well. I think he just won his first grade 1 as well. And this one just has all that back class we've talked about in the state bred state ranks. And I just think the race 2-back ran 3rd, was coming off. I thought it was a gold rail on the dirt and the turf that day. So this one for me is a flow move up and coming out of that optional 100. I think they're just in a better spot here. Bank Sting as well, like you said. 4 wins out of 5 starts. This one is ready for the big time. Probably if they get the win here, maybe we see a graded stake race. So for me, it is the 2, 4, the 6, and the 7. Let's move on to race number 9, the Empire Classic Handicap, 101/8 miles on the dirt. Pete, how are we about to close or almost close out?
Close out our New York showcase races, but we do have a nightcap to deal with as well. I have such fond memories of this race. Maybe my favorite one. Oh my goodness. I don't even want to know when it was. Could it have been 15? No, it was probably longer ago than that. The Great Gander in near darkness at Belmont coming rolling down the center for, I think it was Sovereign Stables, and closing out a nice pick for me back in the day. Definitely a cool race on a cool race card. I wish I could be there in New York to check it out and hang with our New York breeders friends. But this year's edition of the Empire Classic, I think we have a standout, and I was going to not put 100% of my tickets through the 5 American Revolution, but press heavily, probably something on the order of 80%. All you need to know, really, this is a horse that caught money in the Pennsylvania Derby and ran a creditable 3rd in there. You've been making the point, Spencer, about the class difference between open stakes and state bred, and you see that if you keep your own Beyer speed figure pars, that these races are typically going to come up something on the order of 4 to 6 points slower. So you get a horse that can be competitive and catch money at the grade 1 level back into this level. American Revolution's previous runs make him very much the horse to beat for me. I will take a couple of backups. The number 8, Tiergan, I thought was interesting. Runner in superb form that we know handles off going, has some finish, could be an excellent exacta partner for the top pick. And I'm just going to play one ticket. Sometimes I'll concoct little scenarios that are not what I think is going to happen, but if they do happen, I want to be prepared. I want to be prepared for the scenario that Mr. Buff is just not. I mean, I think it seems pretty obvious from the form that Mr. Buff isn't necessarily Mr. Buff anymore, but maybe Mr. Buff isn't even a pace factor at this point in time. And then maybe Seafoam with the right kind of aggressive ride has a sneaky chance to prove the best speed. I'm going to include, not just because this one's running in the purple and black of 10 Strike Racing, because I can see some scenario where at a price, Seafoam becomes the main speed in the spot. Not a likely scenario, but one that I want to include. The 5 is an A, the 8 and the 7 for me in this year's Empire Classic.
I think just starting off with this race, and you was talking about American Revolution, when you look at that PA Derby being a grade 1 and now dropping back into the state bred ranks, losing to Hot Rod Charlie and Midnight Bourbon is not anything to scoff at. And I think that this one, having Louis on him again, we talk about just how I think how important riders are. Some people do not. I think Louis fits this horse like a glove. And, Todd having the normal Todd Pletcher year of 22%. I think he's already shown it with 2 open length wins, big wins in state bred stake ranks. I really want to make this one a single. I'm going to add one more, just 3 jokers, the number 2 for John Terranova. Another one that has kind of built its way up through the state bred ranks, state bred allowance 1, level 2. And the last 2 races, 2 seconds, maybe not good enough to get the job done. We'll sneak in with a B for me, but maybe I use a straight exacta of the 5 and the 2. And it wouldn't be a pick 6 sequence at Naira without – it's not a maiden race this time, though. It is a state bred allowance N1X, 7 furlongs on the Widener turf. Pete, how are we closing this one out?
Well, it's the big day, right? It's New York Breeders' Day, so we up the class level of the nightcap. First question about this race: which surface are they going to run on? By coincidence, the 3 horses I like, I actually think could do well on either surface. So I feel super confident giving you the same numbers, even not knowing that. Guessing we're going to be talking about dirt. I put King Angelo on top, number 5. This horse, I think, is just the presumptive best speed, and those 2 recent Bullet Works add to the appeal. The 3 City Mischief has run okay when you take trips into account in all 4 starts across both surfaces. And I think that City Mischief is definitely less exposed than many of today's rivals, a must use. And then one, more on the exposed size, but I still think I want to use is the 6 Neuro. Against the flow last time, and been close at this level at all 3 tries, despite the 1 for a lot mark. I'm not getting beat by Neuro in this spot. That's another runner I was very curious what kind of line got hung on Neuro. If Neuro's going to be short, I could probably fade. 5 to 1. I mean, yeah, I want some 6s on my tickets to close things out.
I'm just with you. So everyone, me and Peter, 5 and 6 to end. That means you can pick every other horse and you'll probably walk out a winner. King Angelo, just what you said, the winning 2 back in that first race out. I love the fact that some people that they in these allowance races, they want to take horses that have 5 or 6 tries and are very close to breaking through. I only need 1 or 2 tries, and this first one off, only losing by 3 at a good price of 3 to 1 as well. You're getting almost the same price today. I think you're going to get an even better effort this time out of King Angelo. And the 6 Neuro, I was on his win. What would that have been? 4 back in the turf race at Saratoga, up at the private spot with you guys watching some races. And since then, he's kind of he's improved. And it was something I did not think was going to happen for Robbie Barbato. And I'm the same with you. I don't want to, at 5 to 1, he's got to be on my ticket. So for me, we're going to end this with the 5 and the 6. I want to thank my boss, my friend, PTF, for coming on, hanging out, and talking some Naira racing with us.
Well, thank you, Spencer, for sitting in the host chair a couple of weeks ago this week. And then next week, you'll be hosting our Breeders' Cup simulcast show. We've got a ton of great Breeders' Cup content next week. Thursday night, we're going to have the Pro Players Roundtable. Wednesday, it looks like, we'll be doing our tailor-made live stream that's going to – I think that's going to be the final answer show. It's also possible Matt is going to be doing something that's going to be the final answer show. We got to sort of still figure out some of the details. Tugel and I will be around on Tuesday with Baby Talk, and I am just so proud of the work the team put in on this year's Monster Pods. I encourage everybody to check them out. There's some insights about not just this year's Breeders' Cup, but about form analysis and handicapping in general. That's up there right now for free, and I just think everybody should listen. I'm very proud of that work. And then, of course, encouraging everybody to sign up for Plus. You'll have read the ad by now, but really proud of the team we're putting together for that with the likes of Matt Vagvolgi and Nick Tamaro and Frank Scottoni and Rob Dove, one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today, Sean Borman, JK. We're going to have a lot of great stuff there. You're going to have stuff on the free side as well. Anyway, it's a big time around here. Thank you, Spencer, for allowing me the time to not only get all my Breeders' Cup work done, but also get to spend Halloween with my daughter. I'll be right back here in this spot. I've decided this is my lucky spot. This is where we're going to carve the pumpkin. I'm not sure what kind of design we're going to go for yet, but I don't know. I was thinking maybe if I could craft the likeness of Christophe Clement on a pumpkin, that might be.
I think that would probably win a lot of contests for sure.
We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely.
Want to remind folks that we've got a special live event next week, Wednesday, 6:30 Eastern. It's going to be live streaming to everybody out there. This is our tailor-made / medallion racing Breeders' Cup show. Going to be Naomi Tucker and me and JK and Philip Shelton giving more or less our final answers for this year's Breeders' Cup. You can watch that live. Obviously, we'll be archiving it on YouTube and on the podcast feed in the Money Media on YouTube or iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find it. But if you're in Lexington, you can attend live. It's going to be at Malone's Prime Events up on the second floor. The live show, if you're going to be in Lexington, you can show up at 5:30. A ticket includes food and premium open bar. And I can tell you, they've got a good whiskey selection there. If you want to get your tickets, it's www.eventcreate.com/e/medallion Breeders' Cup. Or you can simply contact Molly Heyer at TaylorMade, MHYER at TaylorMadeSales.com. Molly's email again, MHYER at TaylorMadeSales.com. We would like to see you there for this live event. Going to be a lot of fun. One of the things I'm most excited about for all our coverage next week of the Breeders' Cup.
Very happy to have on this In the Money Players podcast. He's back. I just saw you 2 weeks ago. We're both back. Is Klaus Ebner. Klaus, how are you today?
Good, Spencer. How you doing?
Doing very good. Excited to hear about what's going on with the JRA and what's been happening since I last talked to you a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so we've had the Triple Crown sort of lined up. So both the Colts and Phillies finished up. Last week we had a pretty respectable winner. So it wasn't per se a huge shock, but still we'll carry on here. And I think really for me, this is the race of the year in Japan in terms of the horses going into this. So this is the Grade 1 Tenno Show Autumn mile and quarter race on the turf from Tokyo. And we'll see a very famous and familiar horse in Japan in the form of Contrail. So Contrail, for those who don't know, he won the Triple Crown last year in Japan as a 3-year-old. Stubbed his toe a little, so didn't lose any respect at all, finishing second behind Almond Eye in the Japan Cup last year. Then this year came back in the Osaka High, which is again another mile and quarter race. But that day the reins opened up and he just didn't like the off-going. It was a bit of a bog. So the connections of Contrail sort of regrouped after that, and they've kind of prepped. The horse is going to retire at the end of this year, just because he is a Triple Crown winner, being by Deep Impact. So definitely they want to ensure that he has his breeding career ready to go. So they'll run him in here. They've aimed for this race. They'll aim for the Japan Cup after this, and then let's see what kind of take it from there. But certainly one to he'll take all the money for the most part, I believe. But there are some others in here. Again, as I said, it is probably the race of the year. You'll see 3-year-old Euphoria. He was a winner of the Japanese 2,000 Guineas in April of this year, and just lost by a dirty nose in Japan Derby. So he's nose away from being undefeated. They had their chance, the choice rather, of going between this race and the Kiku Show, which is the 3,000 meter race that ran last week, but they felt it was too long for him going that long. So they're going to, again, short him up back again to a mile and a quarter here in this race. I think he's a very talented horse, as experience in that devastating win in the 2,000 Guineas. So gets in light. He's been training like a beast. So for me, in terms of horses, I think he's really the one to beat over Contrail. Again, I know Contrail has his backers and his fans, but I think Euphoria is really the star on the rise. Others in here, looking at other horses in terms of those that try to make their name. We have Gran Allegria. She's one of the top fillies and mares in Japan. She is more of a sprinter miler type, so she is stretching out again to mile and a quarter. I still think this is too long for her. But again, still the quality is there. She is one of the, probably in my opinion, one of the best sprinters and milers in the world, not only Japan. You also have World Premier, who is a Grade 1 winner. He won the Tenno Show Spring over 2 miles. So another horse who has a chance in here. I think this is actually too short for him, being a 1.25 miles, which is kind of weird to say for horses that 1.25 miles is too short, but definitely one that could make his presence felt. And you do also have the hot horse, and that's his horse coming in off of 4 straight wins in the form of Hishi Iguazu. Came off of a win last time out in March. They kind of put him on the shelf after that with the eye towards a fall campaign with some of the big money races in Japan. So
always exciting to hear about everything happening over in the JRA. I want to talk to you real quick about Breeders' Cup, obviously right around the corner. 2 runners that me and Pete kind of have our eyes on, Loves Only You and Matera Sky. Kind of tell us about these 2 runners.
Yeah, so I tell you, Spencer, the more I watch, I watched the big podcast that Pete did, and I know his guest was Mark, I believe, speaking about Loves Only You, and I have other people asking me about Loves Only You. So as the day goes on, I think if she draws well, I think her price will only be driven further and further down. So as it stands right now, I'm hoping for 5 to 1, but we shall see come day of the race. Yeah, and I think everyone can see now in terms of her foreign lines what she's capable of doing. She's a high class quality mare, would have no problems with the distance. And again, I don't think there's going to be any unless some of the horses like Tarnawa decide to defect and go into the filly mare turf. I don't see there being any rule beaters. Aidan O'Brien's been sort of hot and cold this year for his horses, so I don't think I'd be too much or too worried rather about a horse like Love or any other that may go into that race. So I know all my money will be on Loves Only You in the filly mare turf, and again, I hope the price will be better than 5 to 1, but the way it's going right now, I don't think so.
And then last thoughts on Matera Sky over in I think it's running in the sprint.
Yeah, so this is Matera Sky. I believe it's his 3rd kick of the can now for the sprint. He's got a tough task ahead of him. He's had a couple of tough luck losses in Saudi sprint races over the past 2 years as well. This year being nailed on the wire by his fellow countryman, Capano Kicking, I believe it was, that beat him in that sprint race. So poor guy, he gives it all. He gives it his all, but at age 7, I do think he's a little bit past his prime. Could he surprise or shock anyone? I definitely think he could finish in the top 5, but to win the race, I think he's an awesome horse, a cool horse, but I just don't think that he's of this caliber, especially against the cream of the crop in North America.
Listen, Whitmore did it last year. He was pretty old. Old guy. You might be able to get it done as well. I want to thank my special guest, Klaus Ebner. When I get to sit in this chair for Pete, always excited to hear you talk about everything going on across the pond. Appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Spencer. Have a great day.
Today's show also brought to you in part by In the Money Plus. Sign up now and get all of our Breeders' Cup coverage. We've got a lot of stuff planned in the next few days. Nick Tamaro doing exacta and trifecta strategies. Frank Scottoni looking at horizontal betting through his world-famous matrices. Matt Vagvolgi doing stats work. JK is going to be part of our picks grid. We got so much stuff I can't even remember it all. Sean Borman helping out with his figure conversions for European contenders, as well as European analysis from Rob Dove, one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today. There's a lot of stuff. It only costs $15, and you'll get the rest of the month as well, which means you're going to get extra podcast content as well. Most people who sign up stick with In the Money Plus at the $15 level, or you can do a whole year for $150. But the click-through rate or the buy-through rate is something well over 90%. I think it was 95 last time I checked. There's a reason for that, and you'll find out what it is when you join us over at In the Money Plus. That's inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. That URL once again, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus.
And now I'd like to welcome in my guest on this In the Money Players podcast, someone who I've been friends with for a couple of years now. It is Drew Coatney. We're going to go over Woodbine's races for this Saturday. Drew, you wanted to hit on a quick stake race in race 3 for this Saturday, though. Let's hear your thoughts real quick.
Yeah, I think this one's an interesting little race here. I think it obviously starts and stops with Ironstone. If you can get anything, even money on this speedball, I think that feels good. The only hesitation, though, I think this horse is going to be bet to 1 to 5. And you see the strong workout tab. You see a lot of 1 in the race lines. I think it's very notable that this is going to be a 7 furlong event against a little bit tougher and has gotten arguably pretty easy leads when you look at Timeform US in our DRF formulator PP. So all that's to say, I think the value sits with number 2, Heat Merchant. Gets to stretch back out to the 7 furlongs. Looks like is going to continue to improve and be able to sit off that pace of Ironstone and get the jump. The Summer Stakes, we'll just cross a line through that. We heard Alba here was talked about with going to the Breeders' Cup, as well as Grafton Street, a horse Nick Luck feels is very unexposed in form. So I think Heat Merchant might have some credibility trying to keep up with those in that one-turn sprint event. And today gets a much softer bunch going to 7 furlongs, still 1 turn, and moving back over to the synthetic, which looks to be excelling at. So I'm going to go with the number 2 and the number 1, Ironstone and Heat Merchant, and the number 2 being Heat Merchant. If we can get even money or more, Ironstone, anything less, we're going over to Heat Merchant.
I think it's interesting just to make a quick thought on the one who, if it does go down to 1 to 5, I'm always dubious of taking horses that come from those state-bred stake races now into open company. I don't think people realize. They think, oh, it's a stake for a stake. There is better company when you go out of the state-bred ranks. I kind of like your idea with the number 2 there, always having that early speed, even though it wasn't the turf in a grade 1. If that translates over, could be interesting value. Let's move on to the first of our races in this late pick 5. Race number 7 is an allowance going 7 furlongs on the synth. What'd you like in this one, Drew?
Oh, I love this race. Isn't this a fun one? Like,
absolutely.
Don't approach when tired. Like,
yes.
Make sure you're
hold card when tired.
Absolutely. So I'm actually falling to a price. I don't think you can take too short of a price anywhere here. The number 12 Lament at 10 to 1. I have a trip note that this horse was strangled out of position into the first turn and then got kind of thrown 3 wide the rest of the way around and couldn't catch the leader. So comes back on October 16th and runs a good one and really a storming type of race. And I think the light bulb went off that, maybe this is an all-weather horse, prevails better there. So today looks to love the stretch out. I think the big question you have to ask yourself is there enough speed? I'm not certain, but at 10 to 1, I'm willing to take a gamble on that with Cassie as the trainer here for the third start for this one. So I'm on the number 12. I have a few other ideas I'll run through. The 11 Rum Cup at 6 to 1. Easy to forgive those last 2 efforts, as again was against Grafton Street in one of them, and 2 back just had a mess of a trip. And with that trip, it almost looks like the jockey wrapped this horse up at the 8th pole. I don't know if you caught this at all. Kind of had this horse wrapped up, like let's good run. Let's save it for the next. And the horse kind of said, no, I want to keep racing, and almost got up, and it was part of that blanket finish with about 6 horses within a length of one another across the wire. And so it makes you wonder, like, what if Bridgemo just kept riding this horse and kept accelerating through? I think this 11 is going to be really interesting to see late down the lane. All right, and the other one is number 6, God of Love. Too short of a price, really, for my liking to put on top, but looks to want the 2 turns. I don't love the short price because we've yet to see this runner really explode on the all-weather. So it's not impossible, but is not the most logical just based on what we've seen so far. And then the long shot play, I don't think this horse is going to be 30 to 1, but the number 7 Mad Mocha, I thought ran really well on debut, stalking that pace 2 wide and made a bit maybe of an early move. And that buyer of 66 earned should be quite a foundation to build off, especially with a trainer who is 20% firing with 2-year-olds. So I am the 12, 11, and I will use the 6 on my A line and then a backup of the 7 Mad Mocha at a bomb price, 30 to 1.
I love that we agree on the same bomb. I'll talk real quick with Mad Mocha. I just think overall in this race, when we're talking 2-year-olds and these numbers all kind of match up on the buyer figure scale, if you're going to take a horse like Rum Cup with a 69 and you're not going to take a horse like Mad Mocha, I just think you're inherently, if you are a buyer player, you're just not playing properly because 3 points, it's a little bit of an edge. But I just think showing speed first time out, a little bit off the pace, ended up running second by a length, 8 to 1. Now you get 30 to 1. And I get it was an off the turf race, but I think at 2-year-old racing, I don't think it's as big a deal. And I love the fact that they're within such a close number on the buyer scale. Rum Cup for me, as well as the other one, had been showing really no pace early, but had those fast paces to close into and just slowly improving. And that's something that I love with the early 2-year-olds. Also, really big fan of Lord Nelson there as a sire. Let's move on to race number 9. 7 furlongs is the Glorious Song, 125,000 stake, going 7 furlongs on the synth. What do you like?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And there looks to be, I have a note here, too many speed types only proven at 6 furlongs or less. And they're going the full 7 furlongs, which I think is a tricky distance. And I'm going to be fading the 2 outside horses because I think there'll be a smidge over bet. And I'm going to stick with the best value being the number 6 5th Anniversary. I don't think wanted to go 5 furlongs on the turf last out and had to use way too much early speed. And the race 2 back shows that promise we're looking for today in that running style to sit off the pace and make one run late. I think this horse needs to jump up a smidgen in figures, but I don't think that'll be too big of a problem based on that work tab. So number 6 at 12-1, 5th Anniversary feels like great value to me. And then the number 1 Averita, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but 4-1 morning line took money, a lot of money, I should say, in the last race. Today, the distance feels to fit better. I think it was gaining actually on a horse who will be overbet today on the outside. That would be the host fail on my part here. That would be Mary McKay. Was trying to chase that one down, and just I think the distance was too short. So today should fit perfectly for the 7 furlong. So I'm sticking with the 6 and the 1. I'll be fading those 2 outside horses in 7 and 8. I think just overbet too much speed, and we'll probably face too much adversity starting from out there.
Well, we agree and disagree. I agree with you on the 6. This will be my lone B. Just another, has shown that nice little grouping of buyer speed figures. Ricky Griffith off to a good start, 18% as the trainer, and just one that I think will be interesting moving ahead with that nice show of speed in the last 2. I am on the 2 outside horses as well. I don't want to get beaten this leg. This is a very much a survive leg for me. Turf first time out for Schuylerville, then goes back to the synthetic. I just kind of like the fact this one has been able to show speed and finish strong and not really get too gassed out. And Mary McKay, another one, 5.5. Now we get the stretch out, but Justin Stein, definitely one of the better jocks in the game. And I just think if it's going to get into a speed duel, somehow one always ends up hanging on and winning against all of the deep closers. But on to race number 10 from Woodbine, it's an optional 40,000 going 6 furlongs on the synth. What are you liking here, Drew?
Yeah, you may as well. I think Woodbine should rebrand these as all just the Wild Wild West, because the optional claiming rank of the 40,000 level here gets all of these horses that are just unbelievably hard to scrutinize. So I'm going to get a little single, but I could see with the 20-cent bet increment where someone could use an all button behind this just to make sure, especially we love 6-1 and the 10-1 in the race. To start this pick 4, we have another value shot in race 9. And then if you go to the all in race 10, I don't feel like you're giving up too much value because I do like 2 horses in the last leg, and that's about it from there. So with that, though, I'm going to go with the number 3, Keep on Trucking. I think the big elephant in the room is the massive layoff. But the workout tab from the gate looks good, especially that last one. And I think this is what runners ready to fire. Catherine Day Phillips, 16% with a positive ROI at the 180-day layoffs. I just think when you rattle off those stats and look at that workout tab, it's hard to envision a situation where this horse lays an egg. However, I do think, I shouldn't say however, moreover, I think even this debut race of this runner way back when lays over this field. So just a smidgen of step upward. I think this one will be able to get the job done. And I love betting these types. I used to love fading these, but I feel if you trust your horseman or horsewoman, in this case, Catherine Day Phillips, to do best by the horse, they're not sending this horse out there to go get more or less trampled over and get emotionally distressed. They want this horse to win, and I think this is going to be a great one to bet and look at and see, especially if we're going to get 3-1. Now, if it's 1-5, right, we're passing in the win pools, but if we can see 3-1, 4-1, I think that's good value here. All right, and then the other crazy horse that I've been chasing for a while is Dursky, number 8, last out, pushed a horse named Jelgo. Mark that one down as a great bet back because Jelgo got almost pushed out into the parking lot by Dursky, who had an equipment break. This horse feels to be kind of inside outside where it just can't find the right distance, pace, all those things. There's skill level there. I think this one is going to win a couple races a year moving forward and has yet to do it in 2021. I think this group is going to be the lightest of the bunch this one has faced. The number 8 Dursky at 12-1 is a good one. So I'm just going to stay a little skinny, but wouldn't blame anyone for using an all button behind this with the 3 and the 8 in this 10th optional claiming event.
I agree with you on the 3. I think this one just, you look at the summer, bad race, bumped at the start too. Who knows what could have happened in that race? Obviously, the long layoff is something you always have to worry about. The first 2 races, though, and the fact that they won first time out, I'm not as worried about the layoff. One I want to use as a price, though, is number 4, Priceless Will. I just think if you look at the running lines, was close, less than 2 lengths behind, but had some slow paces and being 6 behind in a field of 9, maybe there's a little bit of trouble there. I think this one just having those mid to low 70 buyers, if anyone backs up or if the 3 doesn't show up, 10-1's a great price, especially for having Hernandez on the back as well. Just 17%, really, really solid rider. The only other one I really want to use is Candy Overload, just coming out of those optional 40s with the win last time out. I like the figure, and I think overall cutting back from the 6.5 to 6 will make this one an interesting runner. Let's move on to the last race. So let's pick 4, race number 11 from Woodbine, an optional claiming 15,000, starter allowance 7K, 6.5 on the synth. What are you liking this one, Drew?
Yeah, I only need 2 horses here, both at the shorter odds spectrum. Number 9, Kratos, couldn't quite hold the speed on the turf last out. But I think that speed will hold much better going the shorter with less speed to the inside. So I think number 9 gets the lead. And then the number 6, Kitten Solution, should get the best of the Stockheap trip behind Kratos, the number 9. And Drexler is just dominating this meet at 20%. So hard to argue against that. I'm sticking with those 2. Pretty simple. 9-6, may even put a cold exact at 9-6 there because that feels like the right move to do in this spot when you have 2 horses in a wide open event that probably will, 15-20-1 in terms of exact. It feels reasonable value on this play.
In these types of races, I always want to find the horse that has a lot of good form. Number 5, Downy Boy, last 5 races hit the boards, got 2 winners within that. Obviously, there is the slow pace. But in races like this, obviously we watch Naira enough with the turf racing. Not this is a turf race, but every once in a while, sometimes they just let the speed of the speed go. And if this one gets that again at 9-2 with Emma Jean on the back, I just think that coming out of a 19,000 and running second, it's almost like a drop in class to me. So that one will be interesting. I love Gallardo on Kitten Solution, the number 6, another one that has been showing speed, really slow, improving, and you just know this horse is going to run a mid-70. If it doesn't, then it's off form completely, and don't bet back thinking it's going to get back to a 70, and this horse is not going to run an 80. So I want those types of horses that are just going to run those same reliable numbers every single time. I'm 5 and 6 here. I want to thank my special guest, Drew, for coming onto the show. I've talked with you now 2 out of the last 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure I'm going to talk to you next week as well, giving Pete some good time off, although I know he is busier than all get out. Thanks so much for coming on, Drew.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
How much fun it's been working with Keeneland this meet. We got just a couple of days left as we record this on Friday morning. But you know what? You can still sign up if you're a new Keeneland Select customer and get this special promo offer we've got going. If you go to KeenelandSelect.com and use the promo code ITM21 for more information about Keeneland in general, go to Keeneland.com. One of the places I always suggest people looking to go to a new racetrack. If you've not been to Keeneland, you got to check it out. Keeneland.com for more info there. And if you go to KeenelandSelect.com and use the promo code ITM21, you can get some free money. So make sure to go to KeenelandSelect.com and use that promo code ITM21.
And now I'd like to welcome my final guest for this In the Money Players podcast, Michael Domabyl. Welcome aboard. Glad to finally meet you. I've never talked before, but super excited to tackle this early pick 5 sequence. How's your day been so far?
It's going well. By the time we get to Saturday, it'll be closing day at Keeneland. So sad to see it go, but it'll be exciting to get right over to the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar and then kind of close out the year on a high, hopefully.
It's always, for me, for Keeneland especially, just it's nice to have 2 months of it. Sometimes you see these meets go for, Santania's one where it's like 4 or 5 months, and you're like, can I ever just get a different lay of the land where I'm not getting, bashing my brains against the wall or just, lighting money on fire. So always nice for Keeneland. They just have the kind of 2 short meets, but it's really, really fun racing.
Yeah, of course. Love the boutique meets.
Let's get started here. We're doing the early pick 5 from Saturday at Keeneland. We're going to start off with race number 1. It is a open 10,000 claimer, 101.16 miles on the dirt. What do we like in here, Mike?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty wide open race. There's a lot of speed signed on, and so you're going to have to try to find someone who might be able to stalk and pounce. I reluctantly landed on the 5 Indian Bella. I just think she's coming out of the best races, and I respect the 10 Strike Racing outfit a lot as a claiming group. So they reached in back at Oaklawn to get this horse. Haven't had too much success, but I think dropping down a little bit from the starter level to this claiming event, it could do the trick. She'll have to work out a little bit of a trip stalking behind the pace, but she's got those back races before the claim to get back to that I think would be really tough here. So I really think that's the one I would want to use on top. But as far as backups, I think you need to use a couple. The first one I'll mention is the number 8, Social Circle. It's coming out of those same races as Indian Bella. So if I think those are strong races, I have to also kind of keep Social Circle on side. And then the numbers 2 and 3, the 2 Angel of Verdun and the 3 Miss Commish, those both are likely to be forwardly placed runners. And there is a lot of speed signed on, but they're also types of runners that have had some success recently, which is always important in these claiming events where they have a lot of hard knocking horses. For the number 2, I'm a little bit worried about the fact that she hasn't been able to stand up on a wet track so far, and there is weather in the forecast. But this far out, you got to kind of keep her on side until you see how it's playing.
For me overall, just in this race, looking at the Buyer par 65, knock it down 6 points based off the old Jim Quinn theory to a 59. I think Angel of Verdun, the number 2, looks interesting. Third off the claim, has improved in subsequent starts for Larry Smith. 7,500, 1 by 3. I get it was at Belterra. Every once in a while, one of these shippers, we see it now at Saratoga, with horses from Parks and Finger Lakes running pretty well. Looking forward to seeing how this one will run. And then I do agree with you on Social Circle as well. Just another one that if you take out the Churchill race, the Prairie Meadow races was in really, really good form. 1 for 1 at Keeneland, so I'm not too much worried that maybe the Churchill Downs race was more of just, a little blip on the radar. This one has seemed to like Keeneland with the 1 start, 1 win and 5 tries at the distance. Very excited to see how Social Circle can get it done. So for me, it is just going to be the 8 and the 2. For Mike, it's going to be the 5, 8, 2, and 3. Let's move on to race number 2, which is a maiden special weight. 84,000 is the purse. 101.8 miles on the turf. What do you like on the ticket here, Michael?
Yeah, this is one where I think you're gonna have to tackle it a couple different ways, just because, like I was talking about the last race, there is a lot of wet weather in the Lexington area, and they did take a couple races off the turf on Friday. So I'll kind of talk about it 2 different ways, for the turf and then for off the turf. If they stay on the turf, I think the number 3 Pearl Earring is a pretty likely winner. She's just been facing tougher fields. The maiden race at Saratoga that she debuted in featured a fan of the show, Kinchin, as well as Hale 2, who both came back to run in the Miss Grillo. So that was a strong race. And then her last race, Customer List, was a really well bet Chad Brown horse down at Monmouth that aired on that field. And Pearl Earring took that step forward, second out that you'd expect. And that race alone would make her competitive here. Add in the fact that she's a half to the graded stakes horse Pixelate for the same connections. I think she's a pretty likely winner if they get onto turf. And then as far as for dirt, I think the number 2 Peroni would be pretty interesting, because Kenny McPeak doesn't always have him cranked up to win first time out. And now you get the second time going around ground again. It would be 1.1 1/8 on the dirt, which is pretty demanding distance for these 2-year-olds. And she's already gone 8.5 furlongs and is out of the grade 3 Pocahontas winning mare Dothraki Queen. So I think if it moves to the dirt, she's a very likely winner. And if it stays on the turf, Pearl Earring is a likely winner. So either way, I think you can get pretty skinny in this part of the sequence.
For me, I agree with you with Pearl Earring. I like horses that always go improve, first to second start. Michael Stidham's always been to me an underrated trainer when it comes to turf racing. This one, if you look at it, though, has kind of had trips go its way. It was closing into fast paces in the debut, then was up on the pace for a slow-paced race due to, on the time form at the Monmouth race. I like the fact that we see that bullet work 2 back and then that almost flat 1 minute at 5 furlongs, and it's all at Fair Hill, which we know is a little bit more of a tiring track. Also, is sometimes you hear with Keeneland sometimes can be a tiring track every once in a while as well. So I think this one's going to come in on good form and just with good foundation. I thought Bella Stern, the number 4, was a little bit interesting too off the maiden try. 4th by 3 was a huge price at 34-1. Probably wasn't 4th in the betting market that day. And now stretches out, have Magali D'Oro on the top side. I just think this one is going to like a little bit more of a stretch out in distance. Rayla Gutierrez is another one where I think if you think underrated riders, ran so well when I was looking over Lone Star with Pinder and those guys throughout the year. So I think that this one will be interesting as well. Let's move on to race number 3. Is a maiden 20,000 claimer, 101.16 miles on the dirt. What do we like in here, Mike?
Yeah, this one's pretty tough as well. When you get these bottom level maiden claimers, it's really tough to latch on to any semblance of form. So I'll actually go with the one who has no semblance of form on top, and the number 2, Vero Carroll. Brendan Walsh has been really firing at all cylinders this meet, and they didn't spend too much money on this horse at the outset, so it's not as much of a concern that it shows up here for a $20,000 tag. He's out of a turf stakes winner, and Brendan Walsh has good numbers first time in dirt sprints. And then I would also use the other Brendan Walsh horse, Embodiment, on the A line. I'm not a huge fan of Bernardini as a turf sire, so moving from turf to dirt makes sense here. Obviously, Godolphin isn't an outfit that wants to be running their horses for $20,000 maiden claimers, but if it's not a horse that's going to win them graded stakes, they probably don't care too much about how much it sells for. And Gaffleone has been riding lights out at the meet as well. And then Loonshot, number 6, I would also use on the A line, just because, kind of like I was talking about in the first race, or in the last race, where you've already gone a route of ground before, and that adds some stamina to the horse. Kenny McPeak's been pretty solid at the meet, especially when teaming up with Hernandez. The races haven't been too eye-catching, but there isn't that much in this field that he would need to beat. So really, what I'm thinking here is to play against the Wesley Ward pair. Because if you think about what the meet that Wesley Ward has had so far, he's right up there with Brad Cox in the trainer standings, but he's yet to have a winner that in a race at a distance greater than 6.5 furlongs. So he really specializes in those sprint races, and both of these horses are stretching out. So I think there's value in this pick 5 to get around those two and use the others.
Everyone always sees Wesley Ward and think, 34%, or anyone just sees a trainer with 34%, they win everywhere. Some guys have their specialties, especially Wesley early on with the 2-year-olds and also in the sprint distances. I can't agree more with you. 2, Vera Carroll, for me, it's just a weather play in general. 428 wet mark on the Tomlinson. Tappet, we all know how good Tappets can run on the wet stuff. And then also, like we talked about with Embodiment, being at a Bernardini, going turf to dirt, we all know how good he is on the dirt. 421 with the wet mark as well. I also just wrote kitchen sink. First of all, Gaffleone's moving on, blinkers on, first time gelding. They have just throwing everything, and every once in a while, this stuff will stick. And I think Brendan, to have 2 in here, doesn't like one over the other. Now, if one scratches, then I think you can kind of adjust your play and know, okay, he did like one more than the other. But the fact that both of these have good wet marks, I don't think it's going to be a surface problem. I really like both of these in where people will probably spread. It's nice to go skinny and kind of be contrarian. So we want to race number 4 from Keeneland. Maiden special weight, 84,000, about 7 furlongs on the dirt. What are we liking here, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to try to wake up number 4, Delita. You kind of talked about it in the last race. Sometimes when you have these, the kitchen sink, as you said, you get blinkers on, and and there really wasn't much pace. There wasn't really much running from the back of the pack in that Churchill race last time. So, I think you've got a horse, a filly who's pretty well bred. That Brereton Jones family, you've got Turtle Tracks in there. You've got back to his roots, who was a good turf sprinter. So there's some pedigree there, and then maybe the blinkers wake her up at a bit of a price because I'm really not too enthralled with the two shortest prices on the morning line, the two horses to the inside. I thought Temper Time just ran better than Surrealist in the common race at Churchill, and that race was in the slop, so you have some wet track form to go off of if it doesn't indeed turn up a sloppy surface on Saturday. So I would fade the 1 and the 2 a little bit. The one, for the reason I just mentioned, that lost on the square to Temper Time last time. And then Up and Coming Star, it goes without saying that the Asmussen barn and Ricardo Santana have had a Keeneland meet to forget. And this one really doesn't have any sort of figure edge on her rivals that would put her in the 5-2 range. So I would use Delita on the A line, as well as Temper Time with that wet track form coming in, defeating a lot of a couple of these horses in a common race. So that's how I see this one.
I think for me, Temper Time for sure. Dale Roman's definitely one you want to look at. 9 starts is a lot. Usually my cutoff line is about 10 if they haven't won yet, but the last few have been okay. Last race being Sloppy was stalking a quote-unquote fast pace, was wide that day. I think this one, you had 7-2 last time, 4-1 on the morning line here. Be careful with it. Try and get a little bit better price, 5-6-1. Listen, Up and Coming Star, I understand. If it's a short price, and I mean short, like if this takes any money, no play for me. But if this one stays at 5-2 or it goes up a little bit, I understand. Asmussen 1 for 46. Santana has been terrible. I just like the fact that when you look at it overall, 428 is the wet mark. There's not a lot of others in here. Kizzy B with a 441. There's a couple 400s, but this one really kind of reaches to me as one of the better wet surface sire lines. I don't want to get beat by this one, especially when you try and get, sneaky in the other legs. Don't let what you think by the numbers is a bad favorite. They always can come with one race, and this one to me just kind of fit on the figure line. Santana too. I give him a couple boost up points. Never having ridden the horse well, and he always is a very good dirt rider as well. Let's close out this pick 5. An N2L allowance, 1 and 160 miles on the turf. How are we getting paid?
Yeah, I think if this race stays on the turf, and it would be the second to last turf race of the meet. So maybe the fact that they only have a few more left to run, they don't care tearing up the turf course at all a little bit at the close of the meet. I think North County is a pretty live horse in this one, the number 9 for Brendan Walsh. On Saturday, Brendan Walsh sent out a pretty good-looking 2-year-old named Santon, who had a form that was very similar to North County right now. So North County debuted at Indiana, buried that field. You don't know what she was beating, but she did it the right way. And now you come back, step up in class, not as exposed. These horses can take a step forward at any time. The figure's competitive with some of the shorter prices. And hopefully the fact that she debuted at Indiana Grand, scare some people off when you have the bigger names like Brad Cox and Kenny McPeak and Graham Motion in the race. So I like North County on top on the turf. On the turf, I'd also use on the A line number 10 Boma, just because I think the Jessamine kind of came apart at the seams at the end, and there was really 4 runners that were forwardly placed in that race, Boma being one of them. And only Turner Loose, who was the 4-5 favorite in that race, ended up beating Boma home of those 4. So I think she ran pretty well against the race flow in the Jessamine, drops down into an allowance race. And then also benefits for Boma go twofold, one for the turf and also for the dirt. She's proven over the dirt, and there's as good a chance as any that this race could get taken off. So she would be definitely my top pick on dirt as well. And then, like I talked about with Wesley Ward, there's kind of a similar phenomenon going on with Brad Cox, where he's tied at the top of the trainer standings as of Friday morning. but only one of his 11 victories came over the grass. And he's got 2 in here that'll both take a lot of money, Yin Yang and Maxine Machine, the 5 and the 8. But I would only use them defensively on the backup line, just based on that stat alone and the fact that they don't really have any figure edge over the rest of the field in a 2-year-old race where form can change quickly with these babies.
I think too, and just going over your quick thoughts, Bahama for me, the Jessamine is a very key race to me. Also, first time turf. For me, when I'm playing turf racing, I always want to see first time turf what the figure was, and usually if I can get 5 or 6 points improvement second time, which isn't hard to come by, I think a horse like Bahama, the 10, Triple Tiara, also coming out of that maiden special weight, improved second time out, now has a bullet to go along with that, and at Fairhill, it's only 8 runners, I understand, or 8 workmates going against this one. I just feel second time turf, you see these big improvements. This one's 15-1 for CJ, who we all know is a capable rider. Knees and hips, number 2. Graham and Tom Amos, Jessamine, Pocahontas. I think that they just found this one likes turf better. And sometimes when you can figure that out, it makes handicapping the horse race and just the horse in general a lot easier. A lot of these horses, you don't really know which surface they're going to like. This one has 3 on turf. They're all better numbers. I think this one is very well meant. Knees and hips for me will be a top 8 choice, as will Triple Tiara and Bahama. I want to thank my special guest, Michael Domabyl, for coming on and talking. But real quick, before we let you go, I want you to plug something that's going on with the In the Money team as well.
Yeah, part of the reason why we covered the early pick 5 was just to give In the Money subscribers, both who listen on the free side and who pay for the subscription, a lot of content for Keeneland's closing day. So we covered the early pick 5 here, but on the In the Money Plus side, me and Eric Solomon have given a little call and response type analysis of the late pick 5 sequence. So what we do is we kind of split up the two. We split up the races as who breaks it down first, and then the other person comes in and gives their thoughts after the fact. And it's worked pretty well over the past. We've done it for each of the Saturdays of Keeneland. It's been fun to kind of work with him on it, do some ticket construction as well. So that's sent out to the In the Money Plus subscribers Saturday morning as a little bonus coverage for Keeneland for those paying subscribers.
Super excited to hear Eric's doing well. He was one of my writers for the Daily Gallop when that was going on. Kind of feel like, let's say Pete plucked JK from obscurity. Maybe I plucked Eric from there as well. Like I said, Mike, great to have you on. Hope we talk soon, and good luck with your picks on Saturday.
Appreciate it, Spencer.
I want to thank all the wonderful listeners out there and my special guests, Klaus Ebner, Hatless PTF, Drew Coatney, and Mike Domabyl for all that wonderful racing knowledge. And also a quick thank you to producer AJ, 10 Strike Racing, and the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. This show has been a production of In the Money Media. In the Money Media's president is Pierre Thomas Forntail. Our chief creative officer is Jonathan Kinchin. Our In the Money Media business manager is Drew Coatney. I'm Spencer Luginbuhl. May you win all your photos.
Just me and you.